I'm making this headboard with 1/2-inch plywood because I'm reusing some plywood from a previous project just to save money, but you can use whatever you want. You could even use particle board if you want. That would be a good choice to save money, and you could pick out 3/4 inch to be stronger. Now the first step is to make sure all of the long boards are cut to the width of the bed. I actually lucked out here. The scraps I'm using are the same width already, so I don't have to do any cutting there. Now for the rip cuts, I have to start out with a 6-inch piece, and then a 4.5-inch piece, and after that a 3.5-inch piece, and the last rip we have to make here is for a 9-inch piece. After that, cutting out the sides, they need to be 7-inch by 15.5 inches. One other thing we have to do for the sides though is cut out a rectangle on each one of the corners, which will be 4 by 6.5 inches. I'm using the bandsaw here. You can use whatever you want, like a jigsaw would work well if you don't have a bandsaw. Next, I move to assembly. Now all of the pieces attach to the sides and then also to each other for added strength. And I'm just using glue and pin nails. The first piece I attach is the 9-inch piece. This is actually going to be on the face of the headboard, but on the lower side. The next piece I add is the 4.5-inch piece. And then on top of that is going to be the 6-inch piece. And then to cap off the whole thing is the 3.5-inch one. With the main case assembled, you can see it's kind of a step shape. That'll make more sense soon. But first, this is for my camper, and I'm adding a couple lights and chargers to this. So I'm just marking out a center point and then distance from the edge, and drilling two 1 1/8 inch holes. Next, I just double check the hole size just to make sure the charging port and light will work correctly. Now for that corner, I'm adding upholstery foam. I'm just using 4-inch and I'm cutting out a 6.5-inch strip. I used a table saw. I don't know if this is the best way or the safe way, but this is what I did. And it went so well, so I decided I guess I might as well use my miter saw. And that also worked pretty well, but do whatever you're comfortable with. I then just test the fit to make sure it worked correctly here. And I'm covering the whole thing with fabric because I want it to look like one large cushion, but I made the wood box to run the electrical. I'm just marking out how wide I need the fabric piece, just to make sure I have plenty to wrap the whole thing. And then I take it, or nope, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. I did the right thing and just cut it out with a scissors. And once I had the chunk I needed cut out, I was ready to attach it. Now for attaching it, all I'm going to do is staple it on. Now I'm sure there's people who actually do upholstery for a living kind of cringing at my process here. If you have suggestions, please, leave a comment with your ideas so you can help people out. But this is what I do, and it's easy enough and looks good enough for my case. I'm not really stretching the fabric, I'm just wrapping it so it's at least snug enough so it looks flat. Now for attaching the charging port and light, I just have to find the holes that I cut out before and cut the fabric so I can plop in the charging port. And then I just make sure it looks like it's going to work right. And I follow up with the same process for the light, cutting out the fabric, feeding the wires, and then just screwing it down. This light has a little top that pops off easily, so this made it real quick to attach this. Once I pop it back on, I did the same thing with the other side, and that was it. I'm all done.